Hello and thanks for joining us this morning on Vanguard Live. My name is Marolake Ademiju. Let's move straight to Vanguard on the paper review. Vanguard is leading with heavy flood to hit 198 local governments in 31 states, federal government warns. More than 832 communities at risk. Over 100 major transportation routes face possible disruption. Lagos government moves humanitarian intervention in affected communities. Rhodes Vival slams government over victims' eviction order. Can find our story on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. ValueJet Airline drama. Federal government slams 6 months no-fly ban on Kwam. Vanguard's health outreach revives hope for newspaper vendors. I was removed as governor for refusing to make Uber my deputy, Ngige says. Page 11 has the story. Super Falcons maintain position on FIFA World Ranking, remain number 1 in Africa. WAEC apologizes over technical glitches in WASC 2025 results. Above the banner says FX forward contract. CBN reviews legal action against defaulters. Nigeria may break up before 2027 if, Umodo says. Telcom blackout looms as base station operators, diesel suppliers battle. And lastly on the Vanguard newspaper, 2027, not swayed by one-term pledge, ACF says. You can find that story on page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper. The Guardian is leading with toxic braid. Cancer fertility risks trade Nigerians $429 million synthetic hair obsession. ADC knocks PDP over move to woo Obi, claims party has lost influence. WAEC recalls result, directs candidates to check afresh. 2027, 151 new parties indicate interest, submit forms, says INEC. And lastly on the Guardian newspaper, 300 repentant terrorists undergoing rehabilitation, says the federal government. You can find our story on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. The Punch is leading with glitched grades, WAEC crisis over result errors. Candidates urged to recheck new results after 48 hours. Students protest, parents slam CBT plans. Can find our story on page 38 of the Punch newspaper. Correctional Service sacks 15 officers, demotes 59 in major sweep. Ibadan market shut as late Olubadan is buried. Rivers elders asked Tinubu to halt local government poll, reinstate Fubara. And lastly on the Punch newspaper, 29 governors spent 80 billion naira on travels in 6 months. Can find our story on page 27 of the Punch newspaper. And lastly, the Nation is leading with federal government disburses 493 billion naira to 5 million households. 43rd Olubadan Olakuleyin goes home today. First badge in 2025 birth in Onisha. You can find our story on page 7 and 5 of the Nation newspaper. WAEC, SSC results being reviewed over technical glitches. Equity investors gained 479 billion naira in one day. GMO food safe, NAFDAC DG declares. And lastly on the Nation newspaper, economic crisis exaggerated, says the presidential aide. You can find both stories on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. And that's all we have for the headlines of the dailies. Join us after the short break for a brief analysis of some of the stories. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Today in the News on Vanguard Live. I am Rolake Ademiju. Let's dive into our first story of the day. Heavy flood to hit 198 local governments in 31 states, federal government warns. As rain continues to pound parts of the country, the Nigeria Hydrological Service Agency yesterday warned that heavy flooding will hit 198 local government areas in 31 states and the Federal Capital Territory from August 7 to 21, 2025. The warning came as the Lagos state government sympathized with Ikorodu residents affected by the flood occasioned by Monday's marathon downpour, assuring that necessary measures were in place to effectively manage flash flood and modalities for humanitarian intervention for residents of affected community are being worked out. It should be recalled that the federal government had on Tuesday also warned of flooding in 19 states, as the National Flood Early Warning System Center of the Federal Ministry of Environment called on stakeholders and residents to take urgent precautionary measures. NIHSA in the alert yesterday categorized flood risk level as very high and moderate, depending on the local topography and rainfall intensity projections. According to a statement by the agency, affected states include Adamawa, Akwa Ibom, Anambra, Bauchi, Bayelsa, Benue, Borno, Cross River, Delta, Ebonyi, Edo, FCT, Gombe, Imo, Jigawa, Kaduna, Kebbi, Kogi, Kwara, Lagos, Nasarawa, Niger, Ogun, Ondo, Plateau, Rivers, Sokoto, Taraba, Yobe, and Zamfara. Now let's dive into our second story of the day. ValueJet Airline drama. Federal government slams 6-month no-fly ban on K1. The Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, has directed the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority to immediately place popular Fuji musician Wasiu Ayinde, also known as K1 The Ultimate, on a no-fly list following his altercation with ValueJet staff and crew at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. The incident, which occurred on Tuesday, August 5, reportedly involved what Keyamo described as a temporary loss of sanity and control on both sides, a situation he warned could have led to serious consequences. In a strongly worded statement posted via his official X handle on Thursday, Keyamo said he had received report and video evidence from all relevant aviation agencies. He noted that, contrary to claims by K1 representatives, the musician repeatedly moved around on the tarmac and deliberately blocked the aircraft from taxiing. This is totally unacceptable behavior. The issue of whether he was carrying water or alcohol is not even relevant at this point. It is the physical blockage of the aircraft from taxiing that is the replenishable conduct, which is akin to a hostage situation, Keyamo stated. He added that while the pilot and captain also acted unprofessionally by initiating taxi procedures before security personnel, the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority has temporarily suspended the license of the captain and the pilot pending a full investigation. I commend them for their proactive action. However, I have questioned their sense of justice in acting only against one party, Keyamo said. Keyamo ordered that K1 be placed on a no-fly list pending the outcome of a comprehensive investigation. He further directed that all domestic and international airlines be immediately notified of the directive, warning that any airline that violates the order risks losing its operating license. Now let's end today on a lighter note with Mr. and Mrs. Mrs. is speaking first and she says, "So because you bought 300,000 naira worth of clothing for me at the mall, you turned a deaf ear to my request for a bucket of ice cream even though it cost only 20,000 naira." And Mr. replied, "Ice cream? I thought you said ice cream and I didn't hear you scream." That was a smart move for Mr. to avoid billing. So this is where we draw the curtain today. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms displaying on your screen. And you can also visit our website for more interesting stories at www.vanguardngr.com. My name is Marla K. Ademijo. Have a lovely weekend.